रूहों में उतरते हैं सदा मुल्हिम हक के अल्लाह से बंदे को मिला देते हैं रोज़े.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah and welcome to Ramazan with MTA. Today brought to you by the MTA International Germany studios, so willkommen. Dear viewers, Ramazan is all about spiritual improvement. So today, obviously, we will speak about learnings from the Quran and Ahadith. We will also talk about some health problems and we will give you an interesting and delicious recipe that you can try for iftar. But obviously, we will start this program with the word of Allah Himself, with the recitation of the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قالوا أئنك لأنت يوسف قال أنا يوسف وهذا أخي قد من الله علينا إنه من يتق ويصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين.
They replied, Art thou Joseph? He said, Yes, I am Joseph, and this is my brother. Allah has indeed been gracious to us. Verily, whoso is righteous and is steadfast, Allah will never suffer the reward of the good to be lost.
قالوا تالله لقد آثرك الله علينا وإن كنا لخاطئين.
They replied, By Allah, surely has Allah preferred thee above us, and we have indeed been sinners.
Dear viewers, that was the recitation of the Holy Quran, and to talk about the recited verse, I am joined today by Murabi Sahib. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Murabi Sahib, this verse of the Holy Quran talks about forgiveness, which is quite significant in this example, of the example of Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salatu salam. Maybe you could elaborate, like, why is this so significant? What happened to him?
Well, personally, I think it is, you're absolutely right, it is significant. We have to go back and think about the story of Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam and Hazrat Yaqub, his father. And it's actually, the Holy Quran in the very beginning of Surah Yusuf compliments this story and says it's the most beautiful story. And Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam had many other brothers, and he was, of course, special, had dreams and informed his father about it as well. So that means he was, in future, he was to become a prophet. So that basically, his brothers felt this envy, this jealousy, and there was no way to express it because they saw his preference by his father, which is why they decided to get rid of him, basically. First, they wanted to get him killed, and then someone suggested that we should just throw him into a well and say that he was eaten by wolves or something like that. And later on, he was sold as a slave. So back to your question, you're absolutely right. It is very significant. Your own brothers do this to you, right? And it's not something that lasted for hours or days. It lasted for many years. Your life was completely separated. And the Quran talks about Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam as well, the father of Hazrat Yusuf, how he was grieving. But he, deep down in his heart, he knew that his son is still alive since he was a prophet of God. And it's... If I would, or if we would look at it from a worldly perspective, I find it very hard to forgive a person like this.
Absolutely, especially in this day and age where people tend to think in the completely opposite way. On social media you can find all kinds of quotes like "I don't forgive, I don't forget," which is something that can cause unrest in the society, and completely opposite is the teachings of Allah and His messengers.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you're absolutely right, and that's my point of view as well. Nowadays, if you would forgive someone like this, or someone who has done something like this to you, people would call you ignorant. You're letting it basically slide. Why don't you take revenge? You have the means, you have the sources and all this. And it's actually very unfortunate, but I think this is the reason why the Quran talks about these pre-Islamic stories, just to remind us that this is the path of God. This is the path which leads us to success. And now if we look back at the verse and the story, I mean, Hazrat Yusuf al-Islam's brothers, they assumed that this might be Hazrat Yusuf al-Islam. And now imagine yourself in the position of his brothers, that you've done something horribly wrong, and you have this guilt inside you. You see your own father grieving, and you got rid of your own brother, was very dear to your dad.
They assumed that they actually killed him by throwing him down the well.
They basically thought that he's gone. They basically removed him. They got rid of him. But now slowly this doubt starts to rise that this might be our brother, but he's not small anymore. He's a chief. He has people under him. He has influence. He has power. And when they asked him that, "Are you Joseph? Are you Yusuf al-Islam?" And I think this is where this whole concept of forgiveness starts. He didn't leave them in the state of doubt. He could have played with them, right? How people usually do it. He could have been sarcastic or anything, but he didn't, because that would have caused pain as well. And immediately he confirmed his true identity, and he said that, yes, I am Yusuf al-Islam.
Quite selfless. I think there's another very important component, because he didn't just forgive them, but there was also like repentance in the brothers. They were sorry for what they did, like truly sorry. Maybe you could elaborate a bit about that, because I think this is also very important for forgiveness, that you actually feel sorry for what you did.
Yes. I think both sides played a very important and a very good role in this. Something we can learn from. I mean, first of all, Hazrat Yusuf al-Islam forgave his brothers after they did this. And his brothers had this jealousy because he was preferred by his father, by their father, since he was a prophet. And after a while, I mean, looking at their brother after what they have done, and he forgave them, they basically acknowledged and accepted the fact that he truly is higher than them in status. So I think this is very important, that our actions and reactions are very important. Imagine if he wouldn't have forgiven them. This relationship wouldn't have been stable, or he wouldn't have set an example for his people. But by forgiving his brothers these deeds, or this deed, he showed people that there is no limit to forgiveness. You can forgive anything, no matter what it is. And I mean, Hazrat Yusuf al-Islam was a very significant person. The Holy Prophet ﷺ, even he was asked that who is the most noble man, and he said that it was Hazrat Yusuf, because he was the great-grandson, the grandson, the son of a prophet, and a prophet himself. So a whole lineage of prophets.
Which is unique.
It's quite unique, yes, quite unique. And as I said, this is why the Holy Quran has mentioned this story as one of the best stories mentioned.
And obviously, I mean, it's not an everyday occurrence that siblings attempt to kill you or make an attempt on your life. But all of these things that we learn from the Quran, they are things that we can implement in our own lives. So as you said, if this is something that the Prophet Yusuf ﷺ could forgive his brothers, why can't we forgive smaller things and put aside our own ego? And I mean, basically the outcome would be not unrest in the society, but like peace that is going to be spread.
It would be peace, just like in this incident, in this verse, that both brothers, I mean both parties live peaceful together. But I think, yeah, as I said, you're absolutely right. This is a very beautiful example, and I think maybe this is why this example is so extreme, because these type of things do not happen. I mean, I know I have a peaceful relationship with my siblings. They would never cast me out like this. And smaller things happen rather in our lives, small disputes, arguments, and all this. So if someone can forgive something like this, your own siblings are trying to get rid of you and trying to remove you, and if this can be forgiven, why can't we forgive small, disputes, small arguments or whatever? So I think, especially during the month of Ramazan, people should think about this. That I think, especially during Ramazan, I'm sure you agree that you have so much time to think about these type of things. You know all your disputes. If you don't get along with someone, so you can think about it. And I think maybe we should all think about this verse. And especially during the month of Ramazan, we should get used to forgiveness. And we should remove all those disputes and misunderstandings between us and our fellow brothers.
Jazakallah, Murabi Sahib. And keeping on the subject of brotherhood, even though a bit differently, we will hear an hadith and then talk about it.
عن أنس قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والذي نفسي بيده لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. Hadrat Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Prophet of Allah, may peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, "By God who holds my life in his hand, none of you can be a truly faithful Muslim unless he liked for his brother what he liked for himself."
Again, a very inspiring hadith which tells us how to establish peace in the society, because echoing also the teachings of Christianity, love your brother as you love thyself, and even going a step further, like for your brother what you like for yourself. This hadith is a very beautiful teaching, Murabi Sahib. So what is basically the takeaway? How can we implement that in our daily lives?
I think that's quite clear. It doesn't. I think my personal opinion is that every time people hear about this hadith, they think about worldly things, materialism, thinking that, okay, you go to the store and you have an option, right? There's something you want to buy for yourself, but you should buy the same or something of the same value for your loved ones as well. But of course, I think that's the right idea or the right understanding. But I think it's also in a different meaning. I mean, you don't want anyone to think ill of you, or you don't want anyone to talk bad behind your back, or you don't want to be lied to. So this is why you don't do these things to others, so no one does them to you. And I think if everyone would abide by this rule, I think we can live in the most peaceful society ever built. That out of fear of God, I mean, as far as I remember, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that no one can be a true Muslim unless he does this. So this is quite a very heavy criteria, or a heavy standard, high standard, which the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, has established. So I think this has raised the bar. And as the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, that we cannot be a true Muslim unless we start thinking about this and act upon it. Yeah. But I think, I'm sure you have many examples as well, like what kind of things you've been through regarding this hadith, or how to...
as you said, for me, the first thought also goes to material things. For example, if I have, I don't know, there's like a pie and I have 2 pieces of pie, I try to give the one that I would prefer for myself. I give them to family, friends, or whoever I'm sharing this pie with. But I think this is a very interesting thing that you said, because this would change society if everyone abided by this law and everybody thought, okay, I don't like if people lie to me and everything. This would like change the entire like daily lives of people, because I think this is something that is completely contrary to what people usually talk about in our so-called Western societies, because now it's about me before everyone else. Even though they still value moral values, like, okay, be nice to others, but it's always about put yourself first as well. So I think this is quite a different concept.
Yeah, totally different concept. I think you're absolutely right, because this is literally what people do. People always, especially in society nowadays, the society teaches you to fight for your right. Yeah. You don't look at others, you fight for your own right. I mean, we see it at demonstrations. They start off with the right concept, they fight for the right thing, and slowly they change direction, and everyone on his own now. And I think this is what Islam teaches the opposite. And we were talking about the verse and earlier about forgiveness. And I mean, if 2 parties fight, and they keep on taking revenge, there will never be peace. One of them has to give up. So let's say someone lies to you, someone talks bad behind your back. So what do? If you take revenge and you do the same thing, there will never be peace. And slowly this mentality starts to spread and everyone does the same thing. But if one of them stops, and I think this is what will happen, that eventually this whole concept will stop itself, taking revenge and putting yourself above others. I mean, eventually one has to give up, and this is what the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us, that you are a Muslim. If you want to be a true Muslim, then act like this, and you should be the one giving up. You should be the one forgiving. And I think this is the only way to create peace in society. I mean, we are advanced. We are so advanced. But this is one thing we cannot achieve. Even though we're so advanced, we're all connected. But global peace, it's far away.
I think this is also an important message to world leaders or leaders of countries. If they would implement this in their daily lives, not think about how they can benefit themselves. I mean, even in the so-called like civilized countries, even there, like every day, for example, in Germany in the recent days, there have been several scandals where people filled their own pockets and didn't think about the benefit of their peers. I think this is also something that could establish peace on this level of the world.
Yes, I think yes, your example is perfect, the one you've given, because you're talking about a very high level, government level. But this hadith refers to the people on the down low, the regular people like me. So basically, if everyone would work on a grassroots level, this is the only way to bring in a change, because this hadith is not just for politicians and everything. No. This means that we have to start from our early childhood. We have to teach this to our kids, that this is how you should act. And I'm sure if you would teach this your children, and if they become politicians, they would never act like this, right? So I think we have to sow the seed in the very early beginning.
Jazakallah, Murabi Sahib. Moving on to our next subject. Dear viewers, during this Ramazan, we want to bring you some international flavor as well. We are doing this by broadcasting from different studios, as we are broadcasting today from Germany, but also by bringing different international guests into our programs. And today, I can welcome Murabi Sahib from Iceland in our show. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah, thank you so much for joining us. Murabi Sahib, Iceland is a country that I am a bit familiar with because it was, before the pandemic, it was quite the tourist hotspot, but maybe you could tell our viewers that don't know Iceland so well a bit about your country.
Well, I can only tell you as much as I know about the country. I'm not the greatest of tourists either, but yes, it's located in the North Atlantic. So it's a little peninsula just above UK, so to say, and it's kind of wedged in between UK being here, Greenland here on the, from my perspective, on the left side, and then Norway on the right. It's a small island, I would say maybe half the size of UK. We have about 350,000 people living on the island, and its nickname would probably be the land of fire and ice, because of the volcano or the lava that we have flowing under the surface, and also because of the glaciers that are located in the center of the island.
Yeah, and that is the reason why the landscapes are also so beautiful there. Murabi Sahib, how are people holding up during the pandemic? How are they spending their days?
You know, it's been a bit different. Our cases haven't been surging like in the rest of Europe, for instance, in Germany or UK. We've never had insane spikes in the thousands and stuff like this. So initially, when the pandemic started last year, it took a little while for the surge to come over here or for it to increase. But then we went into lockdown. Everything was slowly and gradually closing down. Restrictions were being put into place. You know, initially no one really knew how and what the virus was exactly, how it was spreading, how much you had to contain it, what restrictions you had to implement. So the numbers went down. Actually, Iceland did a good job in closing everything down and in controlling it. I think actually last year, by the end of Ramadan, the restrictions were loose enough for us to get together and be able to pray and also meet for Eid. But then soon after, once restrictions were eased, borders were opened, the new wave came, and it's just been going up and down. People have tried to cope with it. We are, I would say, for the majority, Icelanders are following the rules. But of course, we have ups and downs. It can be, you know, Iceland is a bit isolated. Our weather is a bit different to what Europeans feel. It's a long, cold winter, and maybe not the coldest of winters, but because it drags on for so long, and the summer is never really that good for you to enjoy and say, yes, I'm going to have a few months of really, really good weather. So the whole year just seems to be dragging on, and you can feel that tension building inside you, where you want some release and relief, which because of the pandemic you really didn't really get. So people are struggling with that a little bit, I would say.
Okay, so we all are praying together that this pandemic, might be taken off the world soon, inshallah. Murabi Sahib, maybe you could also introduce the Jamaat in Iceland a bit. Like, how big is it? When was the Jamaat introduced to Iceland? Maybe you could tell a bit about that.
Right. Initially, in the 60s, I would say, somewhere, 69, I believe it was, Kamal Yusuf Sahib. He was the first missionary to have come to Iceland, and he propagated the message of Islam to some extent for the time that he was here, I believe maybe a week or two. And also during the 80s, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi, he actually mentioned this during one of his Friday sermons about the efforts that the Denmark mission was doing in those years, sending books to the libraries, etc. So I would say around that time, maybe it was officially or unofficially under the Denmark mission in the 80s. But officially, for the real establishment of the Jamaat, in 2008, Iceland was put under administration of Germany. Sorry, before I mention this also, late 90s and 2001, I believe also, Ataul Mujib Rashid Sahib, Imam Sahib, London, and also Ibrahim Noonan Sahib, missionary in charge Ireland. Both of them came here for Waqf for short periods to also propagate the message of Islam. So from the 60s until the 2000s, it was unofficially kind of being done. And then from 2008 onwards, it was an official and, let's say, planned and effort was being made on how to establish the Jamaat. And Gul Islam Khan Sahib, he played a major role in establishing the Jamaat here. He spent, I believe, 5-6 years here. Established the Jamaat. We are currently registered as a non-profit organization. There were a few converts that accepted the message of Islam during those years. Soon after I came, I was appointed to as the first missionary in Iceland in 2013, official missionary, that is, because missionaries prior to me had come before as well. But the small Jamaat that was established between 2008 and 2013, all of them slowly left. And in 2013, middle of 2013, I was left by myself. And then slowly we had to establish the Jamaat again. And by the grace of Allah, it's going slow and steady. We are now a Jamaat of 10 members, 4 born MDs, and we have 6 converts who are from different regions of the world. We have some Icelanders, we have a Moroccan brother, we have some Russians, we have an Italian brother.
Okay, so quite a young Jamaat, but still growing, mashallah. The Jamaat is, as you said, it's 10 members right now. How are you usually spending your days during Ramazan? How do you cope with the restrictions during the pandemic, and how do you manage all that?
The restrictions have recently come into place again, so we will have to see how we move forward, especially during Ramadan. We have a small space for prayers, and we try to keep the distance that is prescribed. Last year, we weren't able to meet, so for the first 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks, we didn't meet during Ramadan, and only once the restrictions were eased, we decided to come together. But usually our general routine is that we get together for iftar. We don't just get together for the prayers. We have our iftar, we have the meal, we have everything together. Okay. So we do meet as a small family, so to say, and then we spend the whole night. And
yeah, let's stay on the topic of iftar, because we also want to bring some international flavor in the very meaning of the word to our international viewers. What would be a special, like a typical dish from Iceland that maybe our viewers could try at home as well?
Typical, maybe in a different way, because of course we have different dishes. Fish is probably the most common here. Iceland is also very proud of their lamb and how it's pastured and stuff. But something which is different to what you guys maybe have over there or Europe in general, also across the world, is it's a dish called skyr. And this is a yogurt type of, I don't know if I would call it even a dish or a dessert, but it's a consistency of yogurt made in a very special way, and you can have it plain, but if you go to the shops, you can also buy it with different flavors. I've never made it myself. I usually just buy a strawberry or banana flavor, and but it has a little bit of a thicker consistency, so it's not as smooth as yogurt as you would have. Maybe closer to a Greek yogurt. It's a little bit more dense and a little bit more thick. But Icelanders, they enjoy it very much. It's very rich, good for your health, very pure. And maybe they have it in the shops in Germany. I know they have it in England right now, but maybe they have it in Germany over there as well. So
Yeah,
you should give it a try.
I think I've seen them, and maybe our viewers at home want to try this as well. Jazakallah for this insight into Iceland, Icelandic culture a bit, and of course the dish. Murabi Sahib, stay safe. Assalamu alaikum. And dear viewers, if you now feel like you want to try skyr, we have a recipe for you now that you can maybe try today or in the coming days of Ramazan for the dessert at iftar. Atal Bhai, my dear colleague, has tried his hands on some skyr, and he came up with an interesting way of using skyr for a dessert.
Today I've been given the task to create something out of the national specialty of Iceland, which is skyr. So what I thought is, let's take this specialty to another level and make an international dish out of it. So today what I'm going to make is a cheesecake out of skyr. And now let's go to the ingredients. What you will need is, first of all, whole grain biscuits, around about 125 grams. You will need 3 eggs, 125 milliliter of cream, 3 teaspoons of cocoa powder, 60 grams of melted butter, 3 tablespoons of flour, 200 grams of sugar, and most important, of course, the main ingredients, which is skyr. From it we will take round about 470 grams, 500 grams out of skyr. For the toppings, we'll take some raspberries and some blueberries. So, what is skyr? Skyr basically is a cultured dairy product of Iceland. It has a consistency of yogurt but can be considered as a melted cream cheese, and it's been a part of the Icelandic cuisine for many, many centuries. And therefore I thought, let's take this skyr and make a cheesecake out of it. So, first things first, what we're going to do is take the biscuits and cut them. Either you can do it with your hands or you can take a rolling pin in the plastic bag and then start crushing. Once we have crushed the biscuits, we will take them into a bowl. And mix them with the melted butter and the cocoa powder. Here you go. Take the cocoa powder and start your mixing. So this will be the base of the cheesecake. So it's a kind of a dough-free cheesecake. After we have crushed the biscuits together with the cocoa powder and the butter, we will take a baking form, place some baking paper on it. Then we will need some more butter and just gently apply some butter on the sides of the baking form. Make sure that you have covered from top till bottom, but do not put the butter on the base, just the sides, okay? After that, we will take the crushed cookies, place them in the baking form, and then gently apply some pressure on the biscuits and press them on the bottom of the baking form. So once the base is done, we will take the baking form, put it in the preheated oven, and let it bake for around about 20 minutes. After you have taken out the cookie base, put it aside and let it rest. Now we're going to start with the actual mass, the cheese mass. Therefore, as I said before, we will take the skyr, mix it together with the sugar and the flour. So, for the actual mass, we will take the skyr, mix it together with the cream, sugar, and flour. Last but not least, put the cream in, give it a nice mix. The next step will be, we will stir in the 3 eggs one by one. Now that we have prepared both parts of the dish, it is about time to assemble them. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So the first thing what we have to do is take our base, some aluminium foil, and wrap it around the base and just cover it. We will take a baking tray, pour in some water so it covers 2 to 3 centimeters of the base. Once we have done that, we'll put in the baking form in the tray. Just make sure that all the sides and the edges are closed so no water pours into the mold. Okay. And then we'll take the skyr mass and pour in. Just take the protruding parts off the foil and cut them off with a scissor. Okay. One final check. And now put it back in the oven for another 40 minutes, 180 degrees. After 40 minutes, reduce the heat to 160 degrees and let it bake for another 15 minutes. Once the 15 minutes are over, open the oven door, not fully, a little bit, and let the cake rest and cool out. Dear viewers, the cake is almost done. Last and final touch is the garnishing with berries and powder sugar. Just a small recap, after we have baked the cake for about 40 minutes at 180 degrees, we have reduced the heat for 160 degrees and continued baking for 15 minutes. Then open the lid and let it cool out. After that, take the cake out and let it rest in the refrigerator for about 1 hour. We did that already. So now the final touch. Let's see. First of all, looks good. We just take some raspberries, just garnish a little bit. You can choose any kind of fruit if you like, but the best option would be berries. As you see, the last dab, powder sugar, and our skyr cheesecake is ready. High on protein, low on fat, very healthy, but still with the classic cheesecake flavor. That's our skyr cheesecake. Enjoy.
I have to say that looks really good. I would like to try that as well.
Yes, it does.
Dear viewers, moving on to some spiritual nourishment. If you are looking for some inspiration on what books to read during the month of Ramazan, we have our book corner where you will find enough inspiration to find the book that you are looking for. Murabi Sahib will tell you all about it. Assalamu alaikum, Murabi Sahib.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah Nasir Sahib, Jazakumullah. Dear viewers, welcome back once again in Book Corner. Today we have another book of the Prophet Muhammad with us for introduction. The title is Gunah se Najat Kyun Kar Mil Sakti Hai? How to be free from sin. This essay of the Prophet Muhammad was first published in 1902 in a review of religion. And when MTA published the computerized version of Rohani Khaza in 2008, the book was edited in its 18th volume. The book answers the very fundamental question: how can we live a sin-free life? Why do we people follow a religion, any religion, to attain a union with God, to enter into paradise or salvation? But all these things are conditioned that man must first free himself from sin. Different religions provide different solutions to this issue. For example, Christianity, it claims that God sacrificed his very own son and killed him on cross so that the rest of the man can live a sin-free life. If this teaching had some merits, then we should have seen its practical realization in our day-to-day life. In Christian societies, where people follow this teaching, we should have seen people involving less and less in sinful activities. But this is the very much opposite of what we see. So what is the true answer to this question? What does Islam say about this issue? Prophet Muhammad says that there is only one way for a man to be totally free from sin, and that is to have a firm faith in God. When you have firm faith in God, and when you have firm faith in His words, and when you have firm faith in hereafter, then you will have a fear in your heart for disobedience. So what is the actual answer to this question? How can we free from sin? Prophet Muhammad has explained that there is only one way where we can actually free ourselves from sins, and that is to have a strong faith and firm faith in God in our hearts. When we have a firm faith in our God and we believe in His words and we believe in life in hereafter, we believe in the system of judgment and the punishment, we will never think of committing a crime or committing a sin that will enrage God. Prophet gave an example, like if a bottle is full of poison and we know that there is a poison in this bottle, we will never dare drink from it. So is the case. If we know that committing a certain action we will make God angry, we will never go near that action. Along with this main topic, who had discussed so many other topics, for example, jihad, who had discussed the true concept of holy war in Islam. Not only this, then who also has discussed certain forces that govern universe and that affect our human nature and human morality. So there are so many things, but in 3 or 4 minutes, of course, I cannot detail each and every aspect of this book. For this, there is only one solution. You have to read this book yourself.
Jazakallah Murabi Sahib for introducing this book to us. Dear viewers, spiritual health is also deeply connected to our physical well-being. One of the things that you might suffer from, especially during the early days of Ramazan, is a headache. And to talk about that subject, I have Dr. Raza Rahman with me. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, Dr. Sahib.
Assalamu alaikum.
Dr. Sahib, maybe you could explain to our viewers, why is it that we suffer from headaches during the month of Ramazan? Why is it so common?
So headaches are very common in Ramadan because it's a special state for your body. The body is not used to this condition. It's a prolonged period of not eating. There's low levels of blood sugar, which are a common trigger for certain people to feel very exhausted and get headaches. Also, nowadays, in the summer months, the Ramazan is the fasting period is very extended. In some parts of the world, people are fasting for 19 hours or 20 hours continuously, and which leads to dehydration. Dehydration is a very common trigger for headaches.
Is there any way that you can prevent that from happening, or at least lower the chance of having a headache?
Of course, it is very important that those hours where you're allowed to eat and drink, you should benefit from it. You should drink as much water, pure water, as possible. 2 liters is a bare minimum. It should be rather 3 liters that you drink, so that you prevent this dehydration state during fasting. Also, one must remember during fasting you should stay away from unnecessary efforts like doing some very intense sport activities that are not absolutely necessary. Or if you have a job that is physically very demanding, you should try to reduce that as possible.
Maybe take some days off during Ramazan?
If that's possible, or to postpone it into the hours, into the later hours if possible.
Okay. Now, headaches are not just during Ramazan, but it is an illness or something that people suffer very often from. At what point you as a doctor would recommend going to seek professional help and going to the doctors?
Headache is quite common. Everybody once in a while will suffer from headache, so you cannot go for every headache to the family practitioner or to the hospital. That's too much. But if your headache is getting worse, if it's repetitively, if you see patterns of your headache, if you suffer multiple times in a month of a chronic headache or a migraine, then it is recommended to seek a doctor, a professional, that it gets checked if there's any physical cause for headache, or if it's stress related, or you should also seek medication and other treatment for that.
So if someone were suffering from a migraine, not just like a simple headache, would you recommend fasting speaking from a doctor's perspective, would you recommend fasting during that?
Migraine patients are also very different. There are migraine patients that have a migraine that is well controlled, which is relatively mild, and where they can relate to certain triggers. And if they can avoid those triggers, they can fast. But then there's other migraine patients. Once they feel dehydrated or hypoglycemic, or have altered sleeping patterns, they get a very severe headache that is debilitating. They're not able to function well. Their everyday activity is limited. When they lie in the bed, they grasp their head and suffer all of the time.
That's basically
that's too much. I think if the fasting makes you ill, then you should stop fasting.
Okay. I think, Murabi Sahib, maybe you could elaborate a bit from a theological standpoint, because I think during Ramazan every Muslim wants to fast, but at what point would you say, for example, for headache patients, at what point would you, from a theological point of view, say maybe it's time for you to abstain from fasting and seek other ways of praising Allah during the month of Ramazan?
I think Dr. Sahib has answered this question already, that if it's a burden on you, you should not do it. Allah Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran that La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wusaha, that no soul is burdened beyond its capacity. So you should not harm yourself. This is not the reason why we fast. This is not the concept of fasting at all. So I think if someone suffers from headaches, migraine, or any sort of pain, he should consult his doctors first. And ask them as well that, I'm a Muslim, this is the concept of fasting, so should I do it or not? And then I think it's up to the doctor or the doctor's advice. And I think in Germany or other Western countries, the numbers of Muslims is going up. So everyone, all the doctors know about Islamic fasting on the whole concept. I think pretty much every physician, every doctor is able to guide us the right way. So as I said, I think this is something that depends upon the doctor or physician, and we should, of course, ask the doctor if we should fast with our health issues or not.
Jazakallah Murabi Sahib, and Jazakallah Dr. Sahib for your insight as well. Dear viewers, please keep in mind that we are talking about these topics in general. If you should suffer from a headache or a migraine, please seek professional help. Ask your doctor for their recommendation about this topic. And this concludes our health segment. And with this, dear viewers, we have come to the end of today's show. Tomorrow at the same time, MTA will be back with Ramazan with MTA. Please tune in then as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
रूहों में उतरती है सदा